Alright folks, I'm absolutely giddy to talk about this theory today because I've had it on the back burner for like 2 weeks and it's probably my favourite Ben 10 theory I've come up with to date. So, in this video, we'll be discussing why I believe that the Tetramands from Koros are actually descendants of a reptilian species. Without further ado, let's get right into it because I just can't wait any longer. It's hero time! So to begin with, I'd like to quickly say that the premise of this video isn't entirely accurate. When I put up the community post announcing this video, I thought these two comments in particular that I want to address alongside the main topic of this video. I use the term reptile to give a general idea of what I believe Tetramands descended from. However, I don't literally mean they're descended from Earth reptiles. When humans inevitably discover life on other worlds, we'll likely begin classifying them under new groups for species that aren't similar enough to anything from Earth, and for species that do share enough similarities with those of Earth, we'll likely classify them as a convergence of the group. So really, what I'm suggesting is the Tetramands are reptile convergent, not actual reptiles. It wouldn't make sense for them to actually be reptiles because they evolved on a completely different planet in a part of space entirely separate from Earth. However, considering that the Tetraman mount looks similar to Earth's ceratopsians, it's safe to say that convergence between Koros and Earth animal life is already an established concept in the canon of the Ben 10 universe. For the sake of ease, I'll be continuing to say reptile in this video, but please know that what I'm actually referring to are a convergent lineage of reptile-like alien life forms. Understood? Alright, let's get into it. So to begin dissecting why exactly I believe this theory, let's take a look at the species native to Koros in the Ben 10 franchise. Sandrippers, the Tetramand mounts, this monstrous thing, and even one of the Tetramand predators are all seemingly reptilian in nature, so we know the reptilian life is both well established on and well suited to Koros. This makes sense, considering the reptiles are cold-blooded life forms who need sources of heat such as sunlight to keep themselves warm. And seeing as how Koros is literally a blistering desert wasteland with 2 suns, it's safe to say that the reptiles here get plenty of heat to stay warm. To go even further into why reptilian life likely finds Koros so suitable, let's look at the atmosphere. Koros has a red sky. Red is one of the best colours for absorbing light, meaning that heat is likely well preserved on world. Seeing as there are both red and blue Tetramands, and red and blue are some of the best colours when it comes to absorbing light, I think we can safely say that this is how Tetramands regulate their temperature, and this lends to the idea that they may themselves be reptilian life forms. On top of their red and blue skin colours, Tetramands also have black hair that covers regions of their body, and seeing as black is the best colour for absorbing light, I think this lends to our theory even more. That being said, Earth reptiles don't grow hair, so you could see that as a wrench in this theory, but seeing as this is a reptile convergent species and not an actual reptile, we can say that hair growth is one of the things that defines them from Earth lizards in terms of their biology. Now, let's look at the 4 eyes of the Tetramands. Some real-world reptiles also have more than 2 eyes, though this eye is less of an actual eye and more of a light receptor. The same could perhaps be said for the Tetramands, though they just have 4 fully developed eyes instead of having 2 eyes and then a set of primitive additional ones. On top of that, some lizards have a thing known as a nictitating membrane, an extra eyelid that some lizards use to basically keep their eyes moisturized without needing to temporarily be blinded by blinking. So, the 4 eyes of the Tetramands could, in a design sense, be a reference to this Earth reptile adaptation. This comment from Yamato mentions how, if Tetramands are cold-blooded, it seems weird that they can move around just fine at both day and night. My best counter to this argument is honestly just that considering how their entire bodies are some of the best colours for absorbing light, perhaps they can still just barely absorb enough light in the darkness to stay warm. Or, considering how powerful their muscles are, and considering the fact that muscles produce heat when they flex and contract, it could be that their body temperatures are also regulated indirectly by physical activity, allowing them to stay warm in the dark. Having scales instead of skin would also explain the high durability of Tetramands, seeing as tough scales are typically harder to pierce than skin. And seeing as this material literally forms spikes on the surface of the body, I think it's safe to say that it's something rough and solid rather than something soft and squishy like skin. It also explains the Tetramand's resistance to heat and fire, as scales are somewhat fireproof. Now, let's go over the relationship between the Tetramands and the Tetramand mounts. I know this design is based off a toy, but considering how similar these two species are to one another in universe as well, I find it unlikely that these two species are simply unrelated convergent life forms who just so happen to share the same homeworld. They have way too many similarities to just be a coincidence, and they exist in such different niches that I don't see why they'd evolve convergently in the first place. My theory is that the mounts are more closely related to their ancestry in terms of their intelligence and physiology, and the Tetramands are a subspecies or cousin species that diverged into sapient bipedalism, leaving their less intelligent cousin as a beast of burden species. It's sort of similar to how humans evolved. There are still modern-day apes like the chimpanzees and the orangutans, but humans diverged down a different path and evolved into their own species. I imagine the same is true for the Tetramands and the Tetramand mounts. One remained a dim-witted animal, the other evolved and became sentient. Both of them descendants of a reptile. But with that, that's all I really have to say with this video. Please let me know what you thought in the comments below, subscribe if you haven't already, and now let's finish things up with our usual post-video rituals. Firstly, big thank you to our channel's Thunderbeasts, Sharky, Riverjoy, and Victor Matusik. Next up, let's look at last video's poll, where I asked you guys if you preferred Viltrumites, Saiyans, or Kryptonians. With 1.5k total votes, Viltrumites scored 17%, Saiyans won overall with a score of 62%, and Kryptonians scored 21%. My favourite are the Viltrumites. Heck, my friend Casey even drew me my own Viltrumite transformation, Hoodlum. 10 points to anyone who gets that name reference. As cool as the Kryptonians' powers are and as fascinating as the biology of the Saiyans are, I think just the simple raw muscle of the Viltrumites is the most interesting to me. Nothing fancy, nothing flashy, just raw power and refined technique. Now with that, let's give a shout out to everybody who correctly guessed that they were my favourite. So, big shout out to ScarRaptor2497, Casey7716, Ret Requiem, Danny the Toaster, Tyler Ferguson 3193, Andrew's Chaos Son. I probably said that really wrong, but sorry. Nathan T29, Earthrealm Warrior, Leon Dyer 3855, Char Jacob, Happy Axolotl 24, and Sharky. And finally, let's finish things up by revealing this video's poll. This time, I'm going to ask you guys a little bit of a quirky Ben 10 question. If the entire Ben 10 franchise had one consistent art style, which art style would you want it to be out of the following options? The art style seen in Super Alien Hero Buddies, the Omniverse art style, or the Reboot art style? Leave a comment guessing which one you think I would like the most in that scenario, and with that, I'll see you all next time. Adios, amigos.